Welcome to another edition of CJ and CJ from the Basement. I'm your host CJ Massey alongside CJ Long.
Thanks for joining us today as we get ready to go and cover the Buffalo Bills, the fourth team of our 32-team segment.
CJ, the Buffalo Bills started off last season as one of the most surprising teams in football, and there is no doubt about that. They started off on fire, and they appeared destined for a playoff spot. But mid-season, things began to fall apart. The injury bug bit in Buffalo, and Ryan Fitzpatrick began handing out interceptions like a teacher does bad report cards. And the next thing you know, the Buffalo Bills are sitting at 6-10, last in their division, heading into an off-season, which, going into it, the Bills needed to make some big-time moves to improve and keep up with the Patriots in the division. And on paper, it looks like they've gone out and made the right moves. CJ, tell us a little bit about the moves that the Bills did make.
Yeah, they sure did make some key moves in the offseason, and it all started in Buffalo with a frenzy as Mario Williams touched down to start off the free agent signing period, and they ended up bagging Williams with the helpful recruiting of the likes of Sean Merriman and other Buffalo defenders. So Mario Williams signed. A few weeks after that, they bring in Mark Anderson from New England, who was actually in the top 10 in sacks last year in the NFL. Not many people know that. So another big pass rushing threat, and something the Bills really needed to address in the offseason, as they were last in the NFL in sacks, 23 total on the season, last in the NFL. So that's definitely something that they needed to address, and they did that. Then we go to the draft, and they address some more key needs, starting off with the cornerback position with Stephon Gilmore, a team that did not perform well, fifth worst pass defense in the NFL. They bring in Gilmore to try to help that. Drayton Florence is no longer a Buffalo Bill. He was released, now picked up by the Broncos. So Gilmore is going to step in and start right away. With their second-round pick, they address an offensive line need as they bring in guard Cordy Glenn from Georgia. And then in the third round, they get a deep threat that they really need in T.J. Graham out of NC State. So on paper right now, the Bills did all the right things in the offseason. Great job by Chan Gailey and Buddy Nix up in the front office for the Bills, and they really did a nice job getting it done.
Yeah, they really did, and I think that anything less than a playoff run towards the end of the year for the Buffalo Bills is going to be a disappointment.
Oh, definitely. The hype in Buffalo is the best it's been since the early 90s. By far. If the Bills don't make the playoff this year, heads are going to be turning in Buffalo, and very well should be with some of the moves they've made. The key for the Bills this year is going to be staying healthy, consistent quarterback play, and hopefully becoming one of the most feared defenses in the NFL. And we'll talk about that coming up as we get ready to head to the hot seat for Massey's Main Points.
I'm about my bills like Stevie Johnson. Pull my women, throw it back like I caught an option. Money on my mind, money on my conscience. I'm all about my bills. I'm on my Stevie Johnson. I'm about my bills like Stevie Johnson. Pull my women, throw it back like I caught an option. Money on my mind, money on my conscience. I'm all about my bills. I'm on my Stevie Johnson.
Welcome back to CJ and CJ from the Basement. I'm your host, CJ Massey, alongside NFL analyst CJ Long. It's time for a little Massey's Main Points. The first main point we're going to hit on today is, we mentioned earlier that the Bills made some severe moves in the offseason, but the number one splash was Mario Williams. What type of impact is he going to have on the defense?
Oh, I think it's going to be an enormous impact. CJ coming in last year, like we stated in the previous section, the last ranked team in terms of sacks, with only 23 in the entire season. To put it in kind of more relative terms, the leading sack total for the Bills per player was Marcell Dareus with 5.5 sacks on the season. Mario Williams had 5 sacks in just 5 games last year for the Texans. So that should kind of tell you a little bit of the impact that he's going to have. One thing I think that also is going to factor into his impact is the health of Sean Merriman. He finally decided to get surgery on his Achilles. After 2 games into last year, he just didn't have explosiveness. They put him on the injured reserve, made him go get surgery, and that took care of things so far. He says he's back close to 100%, flying around on the practice field, and with him as well as Mark Anderson on the other side, I think that's going to take a lot of double teams off of Mario Williams and give him the chance to work. Another thing to keep in mind, Bills fans, is the Bills have now shifted back from the 3-4 defense they ran last year to a 4-3 defense this year under the new defensive coordinator Dave Wanstead. So that'll be interesting to see. I say Mario Williams look for double-digit sacks. I think he's going to have an enormous impact on this Bills defense.
Wow, hey, that sounds great. I mean, Bills fans are wanting to hear that, and they're expecting to see that. But we're going to go to the other side of the ball on the next point. What's going to happen with Ryan Fitzpatrick? Is this his last chance to take the Bills all the way?
I don't think it's his last shot. A lot of people will say that with the signing of Vince Young to be his backup. Last year, off to one of the hottest starts in the entire NFL, just absolutely lighting it up in the first weeks of the season, and then the injury bug hit. Donald Jones went down at wide receiver, their number 2 man, and nothing against Naaman Roosevelt, but when you have him out there running the number 2s, you're not going to be as explosive. You're going to have to be forcing the balls into tighter spots. And then, as you said, the interceptions just started coming out. 24 touchdowns on the season, 23 interceptions. Right at about one touchdown per one pick, and that's not where you need to be. So hopefully with the addition of Cordy Glenn on the offensive line, they'll be able to ratchet down the offensive line, give them some protection, and with the deep speed of TJ Graham coming in out of NC State, hopefully open the field up a little bit more and give him more options to throw to.
We're going to flip over to the other side of the ball once again, back to defense. Stephon Gilmore, how good can this kid be?
Well, Gilmore, I think the sky's the limit with this guy. You've already heard numerous people talking throughout training camp, Stevie Johnson, other wide receivers, that they think this guy is going to be one of the best shutdown corners in the game. Very physical cornerback out of South Carolina, coming in at 6'1", really strong, quiet guy, but very confident in his abilities, and very well should be warranting the 10th overall pick in the NFL draft, and a lot of people were surprised he didn't go earlier. So Gilmore coming in definitely is going to help the 5th worst pass defense in the NFL, and it's going to be needed in a division where you've got Tom Brady. There's no question about that. The Bills are in one of the toughest divisions in football, and they're going to have to lock down. Now Ocho Cinco goes to Miami. So it's definitely a division where you're going to have to lock down on the cornerback side. And so far the Bills haven't been able to do that. So look for Gilmore to step in and play a really solid role in his first year with the Buffalo Bills.
And that wraps us up for Matthew's main points. Stick around for our Bud Light bold predictions. Thank you.
Bud Light presents Real Men of Genius.
Real Men of Genius.
Today we salute you, Mr. Pimped Out Ghetto Car Driver.
Mr. Pimped Out Ghetto Car Driver.
Who needs a horn when you have a sound system that announces your arrival 12 blocks before you get there?
Here I come now.
Nothing says success like a $400 car sitting on $8,000 worth of tires and rims.
I hope you got insurance.
Who needs libido enhancers when you have hydraulic lifts and enough bass to keep the back seat bumping and grinding all night long?
He's got motion in the ocean.
So crack open an ice cold Bud Light, oh guardian of the ghetto, because you put the junk in our trunk.
Mr. Pimped Out Ghetto Car Driver.
Bud Light Beer, Anheuser-Busch, St. Louis, Missouri.
Welcome back, everybody, to CJ and CJ from the basement. And here it comes, our Bud Light bold predictions for the Buffalo Bills. My bold prediction for the Bills is going to be that Stevie Johnson is going to have a Pro Bowl type season. And behind the strength of Fitzpatrick and with Johnson having groin surgery in the offseason, getting healthy, I think he's going to have a bust-out year and shock the league as well as impress some fantasy owners.
That could be huge. I think as long as injuries are taken care of, I think I can completely agree with you. I think the Buffalo Bills are built to be a playoff team. And sticking on the offensive side of the ball, I think if Fred Jackson can return from injury and be 100%, I think that he is going to have a phenomenal year. We saw how he started off last season.
Yes.
A very impressive running back, and we hated to see him go down with the injury. But if he returns at full strength, which according to what we've seen in workouts, I believe he's looking pretty good, he should be huge this year.
Yeah, definitely. And with his restructured contract, all that's behind him. He's ready to go. And right now for the Bills, like you said, I think it's going to be keeping the injury bug away. And if they do, and they can avoid a front-loaded schedule, they start off with a very difficult schedule, playing the likes of the Jets, 49ers, and Patriots all in the first 5 weeks of the season. So if they can come out of the first 5 games 3-2, I'm going to go ahead and finish off the bold prediction part. The Bills will make the playoffs and possibly could win the division if they are able to split with the Patriots. Week 17 is going to be against the Jets, so it might come down to that game to do it. But I think the Bills are going to make the playoffs this year and hopefully shock the whole world. Thanks for joining us on another episode of CJ and CJ from the Basement. Join us next time as we cover the Carolina Panthers.